Makes sense. We're in a physiology class. So here are the main outcomes for this lecture. So we're going to start off with something called enzymatic hydrolysis. Okay, and so remember, enzymes, we joke that they're hammers in this class, and so they break stuff, right? And so in this case, what we're doing is we're using we're breaking down molecules into smaller molecules with the help of water and enzymes. Okay, so, and when we do this, proteins become amino acids, because proteins are just lots of amino acids put together. Carbohydrates become sugar molecules such as glucose. Fats are broken down into fatty acids. So that's where this all starts. A lot of this process starts in the mouth with saliva. Okay, but saliva especially breaks down carbs. Now, when it comes to the digestion of each of these macromolecules, remember macromolecules are carbs, fats, proteins. Carbohydrate breakdown starts in the mouth, with the chemical breakdown starts in the mouth and it finishes in the small intestine. Fats, the chemical breakdown starts in the mouth, but not very much. Saliva really breaks down carbs, like I said just a moment ago. Continues in the stomach, where the hydrochloric acid really takes effect, and then ultimately this finishes in the small intestine. Okay, and then finally we have proteins, where the chemical breakdown starts in the stomach, finishes in the small intestine. Okay, now I want to be clear that in all cases we're talking about chemical breakdown. Mechanical breakdown obviously starts in the mouth as we start chewing and tearing and things like that with our teeth. So we have hydrochloric acid in our stomach, which makes the acidity very high in our stomach. And it does two things. One, it breaks down proteins, and then it activates something called pepsin. And pepsin is a substance that breaks down proteins. Now, hydrochloric acid is produced in cells that are called parietal cells. And what they do is they pump this hydrogen into the stomach, and at the same time it pumps out bicarbonate. Okay, remember, bicarbonate is base, which we talked about during our urinary unit. Hydrogen ion is obviously acidic, and so if you have hydrogen ion and bicarbonate, they mix together and they basically cancel each other out. Now, when it comes to the production, secretion of hydrochloric acid, there are a few hormones involved. So one of them is acetylcholine. And so acetylcholine causes the release of hydrochloric acid from these parietal cells. That shouldn't be too surprising, as as acetylcholine comes from the parasympathetic nervous system. We're thinking rest and digest, okay? So acetylcholine is the main hormone that stimulates the release of hydrochloric acid, but it's not the only one. We've got gastrin, which is another hormone that stimulates the release of hydrochloric acid, as well as histamine. Okay, so all of these will cause the release of hydrochloric acid. And we're going to discuss this in a little bit more detail later in I think, the third video of the day. So next, and what we're going to kind of finish with, or one of the next to last things that we're going to finish with today, is emulsification. Okay, fat isn't water soluble, meaning fat doesn't break down in water. And you can see this, like if you go have Italian dressing in your fridge, you go grab it out of the fridge and you've got a layer of fat and you've got a layer of water or a layer of oil, okay? And so what happens is in our stomach and in our intestinal or digestive system, we have the same sort of thing. And so we have these large fat droplets in our chyme which haven't been broken down. And so we need to break down these large fats into smaller ones. In other words, we need to emulsify. Okay, now going back to our Italian dressing example, what do you do before you dump the dressing onto your salad? And I'm assuming most, if not all of you, if you enjoy Italian dressing, you'll shake it up to mix it up. And basically what you're doing is you're trying to emulsify the fat. Okay? And so the way this works, though, in your body is you have a substance called bile. And bile, and specifically the bile salts, break down the large fats into small fats. This bile comes from the liver, but is actually stored in the gallbladder. Okay? And then bile will be transported from the gallbladder into the small intestine. So this is where emulsification occurs. All right? And so there's a specific blood system that takes the bile from the liver and gallbladder and gets it into the small intestine. Finally, we're going to talk about the biome, okay? whether or not you want to think about this or whether or not you think it's gross, you have thousands and thousands and thousands of types of different bacteria in your large intestine. Okay, I know that that's not great to think of, but they are really, really important. Okay, and what they do is they actually help us get more energy from the food that is essentially, it says undigested here, and what we mean by that is we haven't absorbed it. So it's everything that's kind of passed through the small intestine. Small intestine has pulled out just about everything it can. There's still energy that we can get out of the food or the remnants of the food that's in the large intestine. And what happens is these bacteria eat these nutrients, and then they through a process called fermentation. And from this fermentation, we can produce, or fatty acids are produced, which can be used for, this should say energy, not food. Okay. This process also produces some vitamins such as vitamin B and vitamin K. All right. And so when it comes to the biome, though, it's definitely something that we have a homeostatic regulation on, because there's a balance between immune system and our bacteria. Okay. We need there to be enough bacteria, but not too much bacteria. And if things get out of balance, then some bad things can occur. So if you've got a high level of bacteria, for example, you could experience inflammatory bowel disease, as well as diabetes and atherosclerosis are also linked to our biome being out of balance. And so when you hear about this, it's really important. Now, if you go online and read about this, there are some interesting theories about things that people should do to make sure that their biome's in place. I would not suggest many of them. Go talk to your health professional, that sort of thing, not your Facebook health professional. But this biome that's in our large intestine is really important. And like I said, it provides some benefits as well, where we can get some energy and we can have some vitamin production. So with that, can you do these 4 things?